Fano is enjoying himself elsewhere. And going to go to item number 2, comments, suggestions, and petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Anyone have anything? Okay. Item number 3, approve 611 East Niels Street preliminary land development - Wyeth property. Go.
Take that a little bit. Okay, thank you. Everybody may be aware, this is the Wyeth development property at 611 East Neal Street. It's the corner of South Adams, East Niels, and South Beaumar Street. The applicant is here today. 611 East Neal LLC is proposing the construction of an approximately 142,000 square foot online retail shipment facility and associated parking site with loading docks on the eastern side. The applicant has requested 7 waivers. I will go through those waivers briefly here. Before I go through them, I would like to advise committee that the waivers have been supported by the consultants, the engineer, traffic consultant, and the Mr. Committa, our planner.
Mr. Gore,
Yes.
do we have this?
You should. It's all. Yes. It's an attachment. Everything's uploaded. Yes. So the first waiver they are requesting is from the Saldo Ordinance for the requirement of landscape islands in the parking lot. The ordinance requires that they provide a landscape island for every 10 or more spaces in a single row. They're requesting this waiver due to the configuration of their parking and the way they have that structured and the function of that parking lot. There's actually two waivers that are related to the landscape islands. There's a third, a third waiver where they are requesting a waiver from the parking areas, which includes more than 200 parking spaces that shall be divided into parking areas of no more than 100 vehicles. Again, they, due to the function of that parking area, they're requesting that waiver. Another waiver they're requesting, fourth waiver, is the crosswalk shall be provided where a sidewalk crosses a parking lot drive or other paved surface. Due to some safety concerns that they have in this parking lot, they are requesting that they requesting a waiver from that requirement to provide the actual crosswalk where it's raised. They have some concerns with that. They are going to provide a distinguishable crosswalk area, but just not what the requirements of the specifics that are called out in the ordinance. The other waivers that they are requesting, waiver 5, 6, and 7, are all related to stormwater management. There are some specific constraints on this site with the environmental concerns. And these waivers are necessary. They have been supported by the borough engineer due to those constraints. And they didn't have any concerns with those. They said they are typical requests of waivers in these specific conditions. And they didn't have any issues with supporting that. The applicant has also agreed to comply with a list of conditions that are outlined in a letter that was provided by the applicant's counsel. And there's some specific conditions in there. I won't go through all of them, but for the conditions. All right, Bill, can you pull up those up there as an attachment. I can,
Were they the conditions from the planning commission?
the conditions were discussed at the planning commission.
Yeah, I remember that.
The
Yeah.
planning commission also in their recommendation, there you go, thanks, Matt. The planning commission also in their recommendation letter, which was, they did provide a favorable recommendation for approval of the preliminary land development. In that letter, the letter that you have in front of you is, outlined in the recommendation letter from the planning commission. Yeah, and that letter is referenced in the resolution. So if you can go to the next one, Bill. The letter that letter is referenced in the resolution that is projected on the screen. All the waivers are covered on the resolution and any conditions that they are required to comply with. Some of them are standard as far as the land development agreement and things of that nature. Trying to get the resolution up here. Yeah. The specific requirement for the conditions is what I was trying to locate. Just trying to find. Yeah, it's the last whereas statement, excuse me. To page 2, Bill. Right above there, the Westchester Borough Planning Commission reviewed the preliminary plans and stormwater management plans are recommended to the Borough Council that the preliminary plans be approved, subject to the 2 conditions set forth in their letter dated July 28th, and those conditions do include the conditions that the applicant has agreed to. Plan is also reviewed by myself, Borough Traffic Engineer, Mr. Committer, our planner, and Noni, the Borough Engineer. At this point, I would entertain any questions. I'd like to turn it over to the applicant to answer any questions if there's any.
I don't have any, John.
I got 3 questions.
Go ahead.
Yes. Looking at the map and also looking at the request for relief during the winter, looking at the property, how are they going to manage the snow? What are they going to do with the snow in the winter time? That's one. The second one is electricity. It looks like there's going to be a lot of vans and a lot of warehouse space. How are we going to be boosting up the electricity for the complex? And the last one is Goose Creek currently floods in that area and on a good day. And this looks like a big parking lot that the water's going to have to go somewhere. So there'd be the 3 questions that I would have, which are pretty simple.
Snow removal, like any other large parking lot, when we have heavy snow, they're going to lose some of the parking spaces. And there is capacity built into this parking lot for both van and employee spaces. So You know, and if it got so bad, they would remove the snow like we do in some of our other local complexes where they literally will have the snow removed and trucked off site. But generally they'll plow to a place where they can afford to lose some of those spaces. This is a kind of a prototype facility. They're building these facilities all over the country. So this concept is you know they're pretty aware of as far as snow plowing.
Thank you, Mr. Khan.
Sure. Regarding the electrical demands for the facility, so the overall facility is, we're actually, as part of the conditions in the Planning Commission memo, we're installing about 200 kilowatts of solar PV on the campus, kind of offset some demand for the site, so we've committed. The other that I'd like to mention as far as, you know, some of the benefits that we've worked with sustainability van parking lot, which is about 661 vans on the south side of that main east-west driveway, will be planned for future EV. So we're running all the conduit, each one of those spaces for future vehicles. So in conjunction with that, the sizing of transformers will be taken into consideration for that future demand as those vehicles continue to roll out. They're not here yet, but as the production continues, those parking spaces will continue to kind of convert over to electric. But as far as the demand of the facility, I mean, it's a typical warehouse, LED lighting, gas-fired heat, electric air conditioning to the warehouse, and then you'll have your material handling equipment. Nothing that would be a huge draw. I'll be handled through PO.
Thank you. And the last one is the water runoff.
Yeah.
Because of the problem that we had over on Market Street where the bank is, where Goose Creek goes under the buildings that you happen to own. Mr. Perone was smart enough to put cisterns underneath the road to collect the overflow so it doesn't flood as bad as it used to. But I'm just curious, that's a pretty big runoff. And are we going to collect some of it? What did they plan on doing with it?
Yes, great question, Bertie. So as far as the overall site, there's zero stormwater kind of sheet flow. Dumps directly creek across 3 culvert on East Neal Street. Plan for this site, given the environmental constraints and high groundwater stream. So our groundwater elevations range 5 feet to 12. Digging your typical underground basin and looking to integrate, not applicable to this site due to the environmental constraints of promoting additional loading of any soil contaminant groundwater. So what we've planned for this site is a series of lined basins. It's called the MRC, Managed Release Concept. It's a newer concept within DEP's realm, and what it is essentially lined basins underground. So under the parking lot, there'll be a series of basins. You can kind of so all the roof leaders be plumbed into these underground basins, be lined with stone, and essentially what it's doing is holding the water, and there'll be a small orifice which is about what that allows it to do is those deep water over a 72-hour period instead of a peak rush where you see now is where they have it, you know, sort of like rain that just flows right into the creek, and then and in addition to that, these green areas that you see kind of scattered throughout the building, these are biofiltration areas, essentially like, so a lot of the downspouts from the roof will actually empty into areas. The stormwater will be then filtered through a natural transportation of either plants bringing it up or through the soils to a system underground and piped into the system as well. So trying to not only control the quantity of water flowing off the site, but also increasing the quality of that. So most of those inlets will also have filtration on it as well. Somebody's leaking, this will be electric soon enough, but contaminants.
I had no doubt that you had it figured out, but in case somebody asked me the question, yeah, because we do, our next door neighbor, West Goshen, has a parking lot over there where the Kmart is. And when it rains, we can't use Montgomery Avenue at all. And I was worried about Beaumont Street and so, but you guys already figured it out. Thank you. But yeah, well, it's obvious that, yeah. Yeah.
And I think as part of the reviews, and I think that was maybe at one of those planning commission meetings, Nate Klein at that meeting. Since this is a relatively newer concept at the MRC where you're just kind of managing it on site and releasing it over time, trading, a lot of the ordinances in the area haven't caught up. So you're seeing a lot more of this being Chester County Conservation District and DEP, and a lot of the ordinances starting to change. So I think the suggestion might be over time, the Westchester Borough ordinance will kind of catch up to that as well. So we're not asking for anything that would be kind of outside the norm of what kind of best management.
What it does is, as you know, it stops the massive runoff and the congestion, you know, in that little creek that's sitting there. So great job, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, we actually have that system here. Same thing, but ours is not stone, ours is piped. Back parking lot, the police parking lot, we have we have a 2-inch orifice. It's back now. That was 1991. What do you mean a new concept?
Whatever you do, don't let Mr. Perone tell you he created the aqueducts in Rome.
He was there, but he didn't.
He laid the first brick, I'll tell you. Any other questions regarding the,
Has,
Application.
has Will seen the, three little green dots, the slide that was up?
sorry,
Has Will Williams seen those? These guys?
the rain gardens?
Yeah,
I don't believe, the Sustainability Committee has reviewed this.
okay.
Like Matt said, they've agreed to it, and we'll amend that in the stormwater management agreement when that stuff is, facilitated and signed.
I see by Mr. Nagel's letter that there's going to be further discussions on transportation problems and demand management needs for the site, potential transportation demand management needs. Let me tell you that I have a constituent in Ward 1, and I think he's speaking for others, whose thought was, can we make High Street a no truck street? And he brings us up, particular with respect to this development. And I also note that in the local news up in the Lehigh Valley, there's a similar installation. Residents are having a real deal of a time with vibrations in their homes and stuff because the big trucks go down their street. My understanding is that in this case, you're looking to make maximum use of the 202 bypass exit there. Am I right about that? Yeah. Yeah. And, well, there's still a possibility that somebody's going to lose their way and bring one of your big trucks down High Street to get in there. So I don't know how to consider that. Do we own High Street?
State highway.
So PennDOT would have to approve that prohibition. But you're meeting with PennDOT. No, you're meeting with SEPTA. Is there any reason why this subject, which I bring up, isn't appropriate for consideration now?
No, no, it's appropriate, but other than just this one development.
Sure, no trucks, it wouldn't be against a prohibition against trucks utilizing this development, but any big old trucks.
Right, so you may, I mean, I don't know what the impact of our downtown would be, some kind of prohibition. That would shrunk to 100.
Say again?
That's going to have an impact on your downtown businesses also.
Well, it does.
Prohibition of trucks to 100.
Well, I mean, there would be exceptions if you're making a delivery to, but I mean, just through traffic trucks.
These trucks are GPS controlled, correct? So they're not going to be going down High Street. Not going to be going through the neighborhoods, to my understanding. If that's correct? Yeah,
That's correct. So
right.
these line haul trucks that are coming in, there's 52 per day, 21 trips in, trips out of the facility, primarily using 202, exiting off of ramp at Westbound Road, coming down Auto Park Boulevard, and then northbound on South Beaumont, and taking a left at this driveway here. Be a no left turn out. Trucks exiting the facility will have to head southbound on South Beaumont Street. They will not be able to go towards Market Street. As far as, typical 50 trailers, I mean, you really wouldn't be coming north or south on 100. If you're coming from the south, and you're going to get off at Westtown. Nice thing is there are GPS coordinated as far as the operators in these trucks that are servicing this facility. So that is controlled.
Yeah, I thought that would be the case. Well, convey that to our neighbor.
Anyone else in the, yeah, come on up.
Good evening, Dale McClure, 302 West Marshall Street. I want to expound on Mr. Scott's inquiry as into the traffic. Was there a traffic and engineering study done? Okay. You said primarily the 21 trips in and out, we're going to use 202 and West Town Road? Okay. What few may not use it? And they'll be exiting the same way. So they won't be floating over the railroad tracks into the western part of the borough where the roads are kind of narrow for truck traffic. Well, a driver unfamiliar, and if he uses a GPS that's not for commercial vehicles, may wonder that. Were any road improvements requested for Balmore and Enfield Street and the intersection in Neal and Well, I just wanted to know about the road improvements. So they're going to be dedicated left turn lanes at the intersection and also where they're going to enter off of Balmore Street?
Yeah, so just to give you.
Was a recommendation made for the intersection of Neal and Balmer for a traffic light? Either Neal and Balmer for a traffic light either now or in the future? at the moment. That was with the traffic engineering study. How about the weight bearing of the two roads? There's been a while since there's been truck traffic on Neal Street. Just wondering if the design of the road is going to be able to carry 42 trips of 80,000-pound tractor trailers. How about Balmar? Well, I know it's a public road, but what you're developing, if the road is not designed to handle that much truck traffic on a daily basis and the road deteriorates, who's left-handed holding the ball for repairing it? Right, the taxpayers. And understandably, but but I can ask council that maybe they should consider an improvement on Balmar Street to carry the weight. Yes, and if they ask you to do it now, then it would push it off down the road.
We're
Okay,
going to stop
I mean, that
this.
was my.
I don't think this is not going anywhere tonight. It's not going to change the outcome of the project. So, does anyone else in the audience have a comment or question? Um, Approve this? Yeah. That would be a 3-0. Proceed with that. Okay, thank you. Adam, Eli, Patrick, take care.
Are we approving a resolution?
There was the
The
resolution.
resolution that's in there. So we're
Preliminary
recommending
land development
that the
approval.
full Borough Council,
I'm sorry?
we're recommending that the full Borough Council approve that resolution.
Correct. For preliminary land development approval.
Thank you.
They will be coming back for final land development.
Who's our lawyer?
Mike Crotty with Sienna Law, we had to hire special counsel for this project due to some conflicts of interest.
And who's the attorney for the township?
Mr. McKenna.
Okay, and West Goshen's on board, they're happy with all this?
We've engaged a traffic engineer, Pat McKenna, by the way, for West Goshen, produced a review letter. Doesn't sound as though the applicant's going to respond to it, but we've had meetings with them and discussions. They're essentially waiting for West Goshen to tell them what it is we'd like. Whether we'll get anything remains to be seen, but the primary concern is the left turn lane at Auto Park Boulevard and the stacking and the queuing of vehicles there, and then left turn lane for essentially for the delivery vans at Nields and Westtown, where the Government Services Center light is, and then maybe retiming for those lights. So we'll see what happens. We had a productive conference call with Matt and his engineer last week. I'm frankly waiting for a little bit more feedback from the township.
Well, is,
If I can just provide information on that. We did receive the letter from the West Goshen Township. We did have a discussion with our legal counsel and our traffic engineer regarding that letter. Unfortunately, all of the requests that the township's making are outside of the borough or off-site, and there's no requirements for the borough to require the applicant to comply with any of those requests. So we had a discussion with the applicant. We requested that they at least keep conversations open with the township in that regard. But the borough doesn't have any standing to require those improvements off-site.
may I ask, Mr. McCann, do you agree with that? We have no leverage to accommodate our neighboring township?
I think I would be disingenuous to suggest otherwise. You don't have authority beyond your boundaries. That being said, to suggest that there isn't an actual impact to the roadways in West Goshen Township, I don't think anyone here is going to deny. And in fact, there's actually a level of service drop at Nields and West Town Road. I don't think there's anything that West Goshen can do to compel improvements. I frankly don't think there's anything in all candor that Westchester Borough could do, which is why we've sort of had these conversations directly with the applicant. I think it's in the applicant's best interest to do it. It'll make their operations more efficient. We've actually even had conversations about the lights at the exit at 202 and West Town Road, which for those of you that have used, you know it's interminable. They're the longest lights in Chester County, and I don't know that is for the benefit of Amazon and their trucks. So we'll see what's become of it. I think the plans all get sent to PennDOT, so I think District 6 is generally aware of it. So we're just hoping that perhaps the applicant will work with the township to recognize the impact, and we'll see what transpires. I hope to have something more even by the time it's in front of full council for consideration next week. Yeah, probably. I would assume this will be on non-consent agenda on your regular meeting. So, but I hope to have more by next week.
Okay, we have to move on. Scott, we're way behind. Thanks, Pat.
I'd like to say that Borough Council and may very well be supportive of what you're saying if a vote like that would help you, even though it would have no legal effect.
Okay, item number 4, approve the July 2021 HARB Certificate of Appropriateness and their attachments. The first one, item A, 124 West Market, Oz Bridal, hanging a sign. The recommendation was to approve that the sign be black instead of stainless steel. So that was approved by HARB. Item B, Chester County Legal Building, Valerie Harvey appointing, place trim,
Yeah,
second, third, 4 windows.
Jump in here, Mr. President, if you'd like. The next two are both exterior
Right.
upgrades to the property. While the recommendations seem a little lengthy from HARB, they're nothing of
Yeah.
great significance. They're just some aesthetic recommendations for the repairs that they're doing to the exterior of the buildings.
I don't have to read them. Okay. I don't have any difficulty.
BNC.
Okay, so it'd be a 3-0 for item number 4. Item number 5, review building and housing monthly report.
Through this pretty quick. One of the biggest developments like to share is number 3 on the monthly report. We continuing to issue citations to the Davis Oil property for failure for the estate to comply with the notice of violations that they received for the unsafe structures. What I can say is that staff did have a meeting with a consultant of a prospective buyer for the property. We're going to continue to have some meetings. We have a meeting set up with them and DEP, have some future, continued discussions regarding the future use of the site. While nothing is set in stone or agreed upon, it is a promising sign that maybe something will move forward there. We can see some improvements made at that location. Melton Center is moving along. If anybody has driven past there recently, the building is up, continuing their interior improvements. The plumbing and mechanicals are beginning to go in. Bill, if you can go to my next page, yeah, for the chart. Got a little bit bigger, Bill? July was a great month for building permits that we issued. We issued 81 permits. So I keep saying every month when we got to give this report that things are starting to look up. Things are starting to get busier, which is a great sign for just the borough, but the residents and the industry as a whole. Trash tickets were a little low this month, but we've had obviously some staffing issues, and the two officers were pretty tied up handling a lot of the rental inspections, especially the dorms. They're out there pretty much all day doing those inspections for several days. But we will continue to target any trash enforcement issues, and hopefully we can get those numbers up next month. Dorms are done with inspections. Any questions?
I have none. Be a don't really need to vote on that. All right, I'm sorry. Okay, item number 6, recommend date for public hearing of the zoning ordinance update and planned university campus ordinance. Do you have a date in mind or anything?
Yes,
or
Mr.
anything, or
Perron and I had a
something else that's going
discussion.
on?
Mr. Perron and I had a discussion the other day. We're thinking October's the best time to do that, so we can comply with all the legal requirements for notification. Hoping for September, but it's just not going to happen. So we were thinking that the regular meeting for October, I don't have the date offhand. The regular council meeting on Wednesday in October. We think at 6 o'clock, an hour before the regular meeting begins, would be sufficient time to handle these two items.
Okay. Questions? Anyone in the audience have any comments or questions about this? Okay. So we will have a hearing 6 o'clock on whenever that Wednesday is. Item number 7, approve smart growth minutes. They were fine. You all? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, there would be 2-0 for to approve the July minutes. Item number 8, any other business? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.